Hey everyone, welcome to another segment, another edition of Reviewing Your Music. We're live on Twitch right now. Check out our amazing Twitch page, twitch.tv/theneedledrop. Twitch.tv/theneedledrop. It's linked down below on YouTube. And hey, we're going to be going through some user-submitted, homespun, DIY material over here. People hanging in chat who are watching, just submitting their stuff. And we're just kind of going through it at random, seeing what bumps, seeing what doesn't, seeing what has room for improvement. We have a user Small Bean over here who submitted a track under the name Saint Winter. I have the song over here. It's under the rock genre. Let's give it a try. Ba-bam. I believe we're going to go with Fugitives. McFarlane, just make sure you run me the song title if you knew it beforehand next time. But I believe we're going to go with Fugitives. Let's do it. Ba-bam. I'm gonna stop this. Not out of disrespect or anything. I mean, I think we have the best idea of this that we can get. I mean, I'm sure, it continues to be good. I do want to get to as many tracks as possible, though. I do want to feature as many people as possible. Look, the only thing I could suggest with this is that, and look, this could go any way over here. The mix is a little thin. I don't know if you're also using like the best amplifiers and everything. The bass, I don't know how you kind of captured the bass sound. You might get a fuller sound if you just kind of direct in. It didn't sound like you did, but maybe I'm wrong. And honestly, at this point, look, the writing is really good. The writing is really good, and the way you're arranging everything instrumentally is very good. It's all very good. Honestly, I don't know. I didn't see anybody say this in chat. Maybe I missed it, but I was getting big MCR vibes off this. I was getting huge fucking My Chemical Romance vibes off of it in a good way. It was just arranged and progressed really well. The transitions from section to section to section were really good. And the playing on everything was great as well. I think what fell short is that how good the drum playing wasn't necessarily captured by kind of how flat the drums sounded. You know what I mean? It didn't sound like kind of every drum was captured on a microphone, which I mean, I guess is fine. It sounds like you're kind of working with what you got and doing pretty good with it. The guitars maybe were a little too brittle and a little too crunchy, but it sounds like you're not using like the best amplifier or best microphone that, you have access to. At this point, like you're putting together a really solid song. And you're giving a really great performance, and you're delivering good writing over here. Hey, thank you for the extra sub. At this point, like you really kind of need to focus a little bit on how do I get this to sound quality, or, you could try to put your efforts toward making it sound maybe a little fuzzier and lo-fi in an artistic aesthetic sense, almost like car seat headrest or something like that, because obviously that's a trend right now as well. I mean, people are very much into that vibe sonically too. It doesn't need to sound as good as the Black Parade does production wise for people to like it. But yeah, I got some extreme MCR vibes off this, but not in a derivative way, at all. Like it was just really well put together, tons of energy. Geez, I'm impressed. It was really good. That was really fucking good, man. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I would either just kind of focus on you're already doing so many things well on your own. I don't know how much you kind of perceive yourself to be a producer or recorder or anything like that. Maybe that's something that you could put your focus in on, or maybe you could hook up with a producer at some point to kind of capture this and just kind of make it sound fuller, heavier, more rich and more complete. And honestly, if you were able to do that, I have no doubt some people would take to it, because there is still a huge audience for, the kind of stuff MCR was doing back in the day. And you've definitely kind of captured that vibe in your own way. on this song. I can't say the rest of the tracks over here, but at least this one is really well written and put together. And again, the performance is great. Even though the mix is a little rough, like as far as like tempo and arrangements, everything sounds very tight. There's a lot of great things about this. There's a lot of very good things about this. And I'm actually going to, save this just to kind of go back to it later. Wavy Baby Games submitted a track under the name Cameron Gainley. The title is Shine, featuring Daryl Salad. It's a pop track, as it is described by Cameron. It comes off the Trippy Summer 2 project. Let's give it a try. Ba-bam.
But the good news is the whiskey works.
Great bass sound. Yeah, the bass did sound very resonant. It was a good bass mix. The drums sounded pretty good as well. There were a lot of things I liked about that. I was almost getting kind of a summery Jaden type of vibe off of it too. Not in a bad way. I know you guys know that I am not in love with a lot of Jaden stuff, but I don't mean to make that comparison in, a negative way. And look, Jaden does make and does put out, regardless of what you think about his tracks, professional grade shit. And I think to at least be close to that is certainly a good thing. So what would I say? I'd say, some of the rapping, some of the flows on the first leg felt a little awkward. I think could have used a bit of smoothing out. I do think the song hit a nice high point when you did those almost like little, group vocal passages. I thought those were really great. Your refrains there were fun and sticky, and they really added a fun, cheery, almost hype type of moment on the song. And honestly, considering how chill all of it was and how great and I guess euphoric the track felt when you hit us with those group vocals, from there, I think you really could have built the song up further. It felt almost like you were setting us up for a second verse there that was kind of like bolder, stronger, kind of solidified the structure and direction of the track, but then it just kind of ended up disappearing. I mean, I know there are a lot of shorter and kind of unorthodox, structured tracks out there lately these days, and who the hell has to stick to traditional song structure? And, I'm sure you do that for a good deal of different tracks here. I mean, that's just one taste of the entire project. But, looking at this one song in a vacuum, frankly, I think it would have been great to make it longer. It just had a great vibe to it. It had a good groove to it. I think it really could have used a second verse. I think it could have used another verse, either from you or someone else. I think is really what it could have used. And then from there, bring back those group vocals once again and solidify that as the chorus of the track. You know what I mean? But beyond that, I think it sounded pretty good. It had a nice, again, good groove, good drum beat. The bass sounded great. What was it with those?
Like I haven't achieved the accolades.
Yeah, that's what it was. Those really kind of smooth, almost like electric key glockenspiel little melodies that you had in there were very sweet. And the mix was really clean. And the vocals, as much as I thought the flows were a little awkward on the first leg, the vocals were well EQ'd and mixed. It was a good clean mix as well. It just had a really good summery vibe to it. I just wish it was longer and had a more solid structure to it for the most part. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. All right, keep it up, Cameron. Keep it up. Again, the artist name is AVANNI. Waves is the song, is the single. It's categorized by the artist as a dance pop track. Let's give it a try. Let's give it a listen. And yeah, ba-bam. Holy shit. we got some nice talent tonight. We got some really nice talent tonight. All right, let me make some points of comparison and observation, and maybe a few recommendations there. As far as like sound similarities and vibes go, it was really an interesting mix. There were glitchier and harsher aspects of it that really reminded me of like some early Crystal Castles or Health, but simultaneously, it was really groovy, sweet, and poppy at the same time. Like, for as glitchy and as harsh as it was, the vibe and the tone of the vocals and the groove weren't really overly aggressive or in your face or anything. It felt still relatively like kind of cool and laid back. And in that respect, it almost had like a Toro y Moi sound to it. I could even see like Porter Robinson or Flume fans fucking with it quite a bit. As far as like observations and maybe recommendations go, as far as like the sounds that you're working with, and for the most part, I and most of everyone here are very impressed with the sound of this. I mean, especially the glitches, the synths that you're using, and your super creative use of space. I mean, I may be sort of out of my depth here, but like, what the fuck are you like? Are you like hard panning? Are you side chaining? Like a million fucking things. How many fucking side chains are on this shit? The way certain things are sort of like disappearing as the beat comes in is kind of insane. Is actually kind of nuts. I just love your use of space on this. I love the way that you play with space on this. It's really cool. It makes the track, feel like some real ear candy. I will say though, as far as like your choices of what you're using and you're choosing to put in the track, I think your snare and your kick could have a little bit more personality. Everything in the mix seemed really bold and really vibrant and had like such a distinct flavor to it, except for the snare and the kick. Now, that being said, the snare and the kick were both placed and EQ'd really well. They sounded good. They carried the groove of the song well, but they didn't have as strong a personality to them as your synths, as your glitches, and everything else you were kind of using here. The vocals were okay. I think you yourself are very aware and very conscious of the fact that you aren't the greatest vocalist in the world. Regardless, the vocal melody was solid, and I think the vocals could have been at least pumped up a little bit higher, But listen, your production is so impressive. I could foresee you, if you had the opportunity, moving to a place where you're kind of like bringing other vocalists onto tracks and kind of assembling an album that way. I don't know kind of what your artistic process is generally, or, how open you are to such things, but, I could very much see, your production kind of carrying you in that direction too. Another sort of observation and recommendation that I'll make is, look, I and a lot of other people here loved the harshness of the synths and the glitches. They were really good. They sounded great. They brought so much personality to the track, but man, you are just like, whew, as far as like volume and EQ goes, there's like really an edge that once you step over it, you're probably giving people tinnitus, and you didn't step over that edge. You did not cross that line, but Lord, you were so fucking close to it. It's like the sound of those harsh, glitches and synths. It's like the entire time it's like, you were just kind of jabbing your finger in my eye and you're like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. You came so fucking close. You're like really fucking playing with fire on just how harsh and loud the synths are. But, but again, you seem very careful not to step over that line, but I think you would very much get the same effect backing it off just a bit, just a touch. You'd get mostly the same effect, just like taking the edge off of them just a tad, just a little bit. The structure of the song was good all around. The grooves were great. Lasted a really ideal amount of time as well, and the transitions throughout the track kind of kept it fresh from front to back. This is a really good track. This is very good. This is really good. Someone in chat says, I disagree, go harder. Yeah, just basically turn it into you could make it sweeter, you could make it more pleasant, more accessible, or you could just turn it into a Merzbow track. I mean, it's your choice. It's your track. Do what the fuck you want. All right, as I said, This track has been submitted by Girl IRL. Artist name is Girl IRL. Song is Sinclair. It's categorized by the artist as a piece of industrial pop. So get ready for that. Let's give it a try. Has a bit of has almost a futuristic, sleek, hyperpop flair to the single title over here. So maybe that gives us a clue as to the aesthetic of this. Let's give it a taste. Ba-bam. Thank you for submitting and subbing Girl IRL.
Got a grip on me. I close my eyes wide awake and I can't sleep. Sincerity.
Damn! Holy shit! Sheesh! What the fuck? This is very fortunate, very lucky reviewing your music night. We're just getting fucking shit. We're just getting all the talent in the community today. God damn. That might be my favorite track of the night so far. I mean, look, the beat was killer, and the industrial sounds that you worked in were fantastic. It was heavy, it was textured, it was abrasive. It's pretty obvious you're a student of the Sophie camp, the PC music camp. There's some similarities here, I think, to Shy Girl's music as well. The production's just off the fucking chain. I mean, it's not the best like sound design I've heard in my entire life, but like it's nearly just as good as those artists that you're pulling from. And I think it's only really a matter of time as you continue honing, your talents with this, that you're there and moving beyond that and kind of, defining your complete and total and unique sound within that. The vocal wasn't necessarily the most mind-blowing on the map, but I think delivering in that very kind of cold, low-key fashion over an instrumental of this style is completely valid and, a great artistic contrast and choice. I mean, goddamn, it hits so fucking hard. And I love, and while I do make that critique and that observation about the vocal, I did like how the song, as it continued on, it really did sort of convey this feeling of almost like a silent kind of manic sort of quality to it, kind of very low key, disturbing, itching at the back of your psyche kind of insanity. I'll say around the second minute, once we kind of transitioned out of the second minute and we were going into maybe like 2:14 or so into the remaining leg of the song, you sort of had that very spacious break. And I think you knew at that point compositionally that you had kind of like exhausted a lot of the ideas that you had used up until that point, and you tried to offer as many sort of like plays and switch ups on those ideas as you could, slight variations while maintaining the track in its essence up until that point. I say fuck it, do a beat change at that point. Hit us with some shit like, I don't know, hey, thank you very much for the raid. Hit us with some like Kanye West Cruel Summer, kick drum starts to come in, suicide doors on the tour bus, like that type of shit, just like really kind of ascend it up, build it up, and make the sonic displays that you're delivering up until that point even more insane. I feel like at that point, as far as like, leaving this as a single goes, because, maybe that could create an awkward kind of flow moment in an album. But, I say at that point, you really kind of like hit us with that spacious break, use that as an opportunity if you're going to change this track at all, or maybe just kind of use this as an idea for a future piece of production. No need to tear this track apart. It's already so good, and there's already so many people that loved it. But at that point, why not a beat switch? Why not something like that, since that's becoming more and more popular of a trend and idea, and will really kind of like light this kind of thing up. And the track is already so experimental. So of course, like with it, you're going to get an audience of people who are open to that idea anyway. But yeah, it was really good. It was just incredible. The sounds were so rich and textured and heavy. They hit hard. Again, I thought the vocal approach that you took was really valid. The groove was great. And I see no reason why, hardcore fans of, again, some of the artists I mentioned earlier, be it Sophie, Shy Girl, that sort of thing, artists cut from that cloth, even Arca, I don't see why artists like that shouldn't be fucking with this heavy. This is quite good. And again, as I said, it looks like there were a lot of people in chat that really kind of fucked with it too. So a shout out to Girl IRL. As I said, the song comes from artist A Lesser Vision. The track is titled Sylvia. Appreciate again that you submitted and subbed and everything. Let's give this track a listen and see what it's got to offer. Okay, not that I stopped that track out of disrespect or anything. I just want to kind of get out my thoughts and move on to the next one as soon as we can. But that was really good. That was also very good. We're just getting fire tonight. We're getting fire tonight. I mean, look, here are my thoughts and here's my opinion. Obviously, we have a pretty straightforward, almost like 90s-esque piece of pop rock wrapped in a great shoegazy veneer. Now, what you're doing here, does it kind of push beyond the expectations of shoegaze? Does it kind of like break the mold of shoegaze? I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think for the most part, kind of you're just kind of checking the fundamentals. You're kind of like filling in, the blueprint. However, look, I mean, to be honest, like most artists fail to even do that. Like most shoegaze out there is shit. I'm going to be honest. Like most shoegaze, most people out there on the internet attempting shoegaze do a really fucking shit job of it. And even some of the stuff that like bubbles to the top that maybe you might like get some good scores on and like rate your music is actually kind of shitty too. And when I say that, I'm not talking about like the classic acts and art, I'm not talking about like, fucking My Bloody Valentine or some shit like that. I'm just like talking about some of the new stuff that people are like, oh yeah, I love shoegaze. This is great. No, actually it's kind of shit. But as far as like modern shoegaze goes, like some new internet shoegaze, like the mix on this is great. The mix is really good. The guitar sounds so fucking lush and heavy and pillowy, and you just want to fucking swim in them forever. You just want them to drown you to death. You want to suffocate in these guitars. And that burning little guitar lead that you put in there was really nice. It's just a really good sounding shoegazy mix. Look, I mean, as far as the sound of this goes, I would encourage you to continue pushing into alternative guitar effects and, approaches to sound, because Lord knows there were like so many weird fucking things that MBV did to get the really surreal sounds out of their guitars. And, that's the thing about shoegaze generally. It should be shooting for a surreal sound, and I think there are things that you could be doing as far as like experimental sound approaches that could make what you're doing here sound really surreal. I mean, the basic mix is very full and very heavy, and that's obviously what you want. But I think you could kind of push the textures a little bit further. The other thing that I think you could push a little bit further is, the drums were fine. The groove was good. It was, kind of driving the track at a good pace. But I think the drums could use a little bit more personality. I thought that was a slight shortcoming as well. But again, sort of the mix and the sound of everything, and the fact that the vocals are very emotionally compelling, that kind of saved the whole thing. And also, the structure was very solid as well. I thought that burning heavy wall of guitars served very well as a chorus. The verses were quite sweet and endearing. I loved the male-female vocal dynamic there. That was very quaint. And that semi-acoustic bridge that you offered, provided just the perfect amount of space and resting time to bring back that heavy wall of guitars. But you know what? For the third time, although is it technically the fourth time, because the track kind of started off with it. It might be the fourth time. To bring it back the third or the fourth time, whichever it is, maybe do something else to kind of break it up, or just kind of add a little extra something so it doesn't feel like the same part over again. Though generally I would say, outside of that, the pacing and the length of the song was fine. I know there were a lot of people who, once we put the track on or got it queued up, were like, oh, it's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes. I mean, just keep in mind that there are a lot of people that look at tracks that way. And while I wouldn't make that, make you self-conscious about writing a 5-minute track, just be conscious that there are a lot of people who, sort of have that stuck in their heads, unfortunately. And as a result, like when you do present ideas that you're essentially repeating, do your due diligence to at least find little subtle ways to just add to just add an extra something, or just a tiny variation so it feels at least a little more different than it was when we heard it, the prior times on the track, especially if you're going for this length. But outside of that, just, and not that those were like, harsh critiques or anything. This is a very good song. This is a very good track. We're getting lots of heat tonight from the community. I appreciate it. Okay. Chorzad has submitted a track under the artist name North American Pharaohs, song surf, genre alternative. Let's give it a try. Ba-bam. That was quite good. That was an anthem. That was an anthem. Let me know. Ba, 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 ba. Well-written track, well performed as well. I thought everything individually, as far as like the instrumentation, sounded very good. I'm just going to be a little bit of a stickler on the mix here. Look, I think the kick and the snare could come up. They were a little buried. The kick and the snare could come up. Not necessarily everything else, not necessarily the guitars, because, cymbals can eat guitars in a mix. The cymbals are mostly fine. The snare and the kick could come up. The guitars, maybe not necessarily the guitars, but maybe the bass could use a little bit more beef, And then the vocals, I thought the vocals were good. The vocals were well delivered. They were impassioned. But keep in mind, you did have background vocals there, which popped. And the vocals, while they were emotionally compelling, they were impassioned. They definitely had personality. They grabbed your attention right away. Keep aware of the fact that the vocal delivery, the tone is kind of nasally. And, not that needs to change. There's a lot of singers out there who are very nasally, some of the most famous and successful of which being Tom York, being, John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats, probably offender, numero uno of having the most nasally voice in the world. But, John's vocals are always very well mixed and very well placed on his tracks. Just keep in mind that there is a volume at which you can place those types of vocals where they seemingly overpower everything else. Even if underneath the vocals you have roaring guitars and drums going off and everything, I think the vocals could just come down a touch, just a touch. Just try to find a little bit more balance with the vocals and the guitars. But outside of that, I thought it was a very well put together track. And I thought it was a well put together track. And again, if you want sort of an effective example of how to kind of place a vocal like that, I would look at a Mountain Goats record. Because I think that's a great kind of example of EQing and, placing volume wise a voice like that to where it's not overpowering everything else. It's not overbearing, because John Darnielle does have a very unique voice that I imagine to a lot of people could become very annoying if it was just right in your face. So, I would sort of use that as an example. But again, that's not a critique against the vocals themselves, I think the vocals are fine, and singing in that way is completely valid and legitimate. And regardless of that tone, you were hitting the notes. It came off impassioned. It came off emotionally compelling. You were really kind of putting your heart into it. Or the singer was, rather. I don't know who in the band submitted this, but just keep in mind that you could make a vocal like that too loud, too in your face, and really kind of like because there is so much treble on it, or there's like it's in a higher register, I guess is what I want to say. It's going to pop in the mix just by virtue of it being very high, whereas like somebody who's maybe more of a baritone or something like that, you might have more worry about whether or not the guitars are kind of like covering that dude's voice too much, or whether or not he's like competing with the bass or the keys or something like that, but a vocal like yours, like this vocal is going to, ears usually go to the vocals for most listeners anyway, right away, because, most music listeners aren't musicians, most music listeners aren't like putting on a track and they're like, all right, what's that bass going to sound like? Most people go to the vocals anyway, immediately. So, they don't need to be quite this loud, but they were good. And again, everything individually on the track was good. Cool. I was, again, impressed with that. And I'm just, impressed with all the talent today. Shit. Henry Beans has submitted a track under the artist name Why Not? Song No Suggestions Here. Genre indie. Let's see it out. Or let's see it through, rather. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. Let's see it through and see how it sounds.
This is a certified hood classic.
Sorry, I did that. Shout out to Deerhoof and Satomi. I love those guys. That was really fucking good. I think along with like Girl IRL, that was one of my favorite tracks of the night. I almost have, I obviously am going to comment and, talk about certain aspects of the track I like, but as far as like things you could do, I don't know what to tell you. Why are you not on a label? Why are you not on a label right now? How are you not on a fucking label? This sounds better to me than more than half the shit PR people are sending me every week. Like, what the fuck? If the stuff PR people were sending me every week was at the bare minimum this good, I would be opening every fucking PR email that I get. But most of the time it's not. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Why is this not on a label? How are you not on like Jaguar or something? Or how are you not on like, I'm not telling you to sort of like prostrate yourself or desperately whore yourself out for some, independent labels, money or anything. But why is this not on Sub Pop? Why is this not on fucking Sub Pop? But whatever. Look, I thought this was a really creative piece of lo-fi indie rock with a lot of very cool production quirks. I thought that change up at the end was super fresh. The vocals were cool. Maybe the drums were a little too dry and could have used some more texture, but honestly, there were so many unorthodox things about the mix as it is. If you wanted to leave the drums the way they were, that's fine. It's totally fine. It was just really clean and groovy and well put together. I know I did that,
This is a certified hood classic.
I did that at first because it was a little quirky and I thought that would be funny, but then I did it again.
This is a certified hood classic.
Because it was like legitimately great and I thought it was awesome. The first time was a joke. The second time was because it was literally a certified fucking hood classic. yeah, I don't really have too much to say as far as what you could do. I mean, look, I don't know what you're doing as far as like getting your stuff out there and kind of pushing your brand and your music out there. I mean, it looks like you dropped this song back in 2020. But you know, you need to start doing some music videos. You need to start putting in some social media work. You need to start putting in some like doing some networking, making some connections, because this just sounds great. This just sounds really good. You know, again, like I get submissions and I get emails pitching me music all the time, every day of the week. And a vast majority of it from PR people is stuff that's on a label, stuff that has a promotion budget behind it. This is like there. This is at that level. This sounds as good and as creative, in many cases more creative, than a lot of the stuff that people are sending me in my email every week. Why are you just pitching your song here? You're far beyond this level. I don't know, you know, what you are or not doing as far as getting your stuff out there, but you know, you need to start shopping this around. And, you know, and obviously continuing to try to grow and push your artistry and, you know, try new things. But, look, the grooves were great. The vocals were great. The songwriting was cool. The production switch ups you did on multiple points were colorful and interesting and engaging. This was refreshing. This was really cool. You know, I'd much rather listen to this than another fucking, you know, than see another label sign another Mac DeMarco ripoff. Are you fucking kidding me? You know, this is the wave. Get people on this fucking wave. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm sorry if I don't have, you know, a whole lot to say as far as pulling it apart, but it was very good. It was legitimately a very good track, and I feel like more people should hear it. And I feel like, you know, look, honestly, if you're sending this around to, you know, some behind the scenes, you know, industry people in the indie world, and they're not hearing the potential in it, or they're not hearing that it's just as good or just as quality than, you know, most of the other fucking bands that they sign every year, they're idiots. They're morons. They're fools. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, the music industry is all marketing, and a lot of things get signed and get pushed based on how well it can be guessed that something will market or be marketed. But, you know, the fact remains, well, I say fact, but it is my opinion, but I think it is pretty fucking factual, that this sounds just as good as anything else that's considered professional grade in the indie world. So yeah, I mean, I'll leave it there. Here we go. As I said, we have a submission from Pizzarel. I don't know. When I hear that, I think of the name Pharrell. Pizzarel, artist is the Yahoo Kids. Song is Evacuate My Heart. And this track has been categorized as indie pop. And the project, it's off of the City Dwellers Loving the Slow Life. Okay. All right, let's give this track a taste and see what it's all about.
Today I sit and wonder where it all went wrong.
Okay, there you go. Got almost like a combination of like some of the more country Violent Femmes tracks, a touch of Daniel Johnston, and maybe like some old Bright Eyes as well. You know, obviously, again, the more kind of country fused tracks, but not quite as like trying to come off as dejected and self-loathing as possible. I mean, for the most part, this track almost had as sad as some of the lyrics were, almost like a happy-go-lucky sort of vibe to it, in a good way. You know, look, I think the kind of raw, rough around the edges, indie country sound and style that you're going for here is pretty cool. I thought the tune was sweet on the ears and catchy instantaneously, but notes, because look, there are notes. Look, it's kind of a tough thing to describe and execute, but look, I could tell that you guys are kind of going for purposefully this rough and tumbled kind of aesthetic and demeanor and delivery. And I think there are a lot of artists that do that really well. And you could obviously do it very well too. I don't know if it was pulled off as well as it could be on this track, especially during some of the transitional drum fills that, a couple of which sounded a little flubbed and the guitars weren't so tight with them. I guess here's what I'll say. While it sounded like you guys are trying to be rough around the edges on purpose, and again, that's cool, that's great. I think that there are a lot of great records and artists that do that. You guys have seen me put out a lot of reviews over the years that, compliment exactly that sort of thing. But I feel like if the track is, I feel like if one person is kind of, purposefully going a little messy, everybody should be a little messy, or it should be reflected in the track overall. It shouldn't just be the drummer that's like missing a hit, and then meanwhile the guitars are kind of like, keeping up the pace and everything. I mean, that's just a suggestion though. I mean, just think about it. And as far as like the roughness of the track, I'll say, first, I'm not trying to create any beef in the band here. Okay. I'm not trying to get anybody kicked out or anybody in trouble. All right. That's a preface right there. First singer I thought was very on point. Second singer, not as much. Okay. Now I will say though, what sounded like the second singer, again, on the back end of the track, sounded a lot better than he did during the first verse that he delivered. So I think this may merely be kind of a case of like doing another take, but the second singer didn't sound quite as on as the first singer, though generally I do like the two-singer dynamic. I think it's a good move. I think it's a good idea. And then the other note that I'll make is during those jauntier bits where you added in the synthesizers, I think it's a good idea and it's well-intentioned to add something in those moments. You want to add something, but I don't know if those synths were it. The electric keys on the back end were really good. I thought those kind of tastefully fit the vibe of the song pretty well. And, look, I'm not trying to box you guys into the indie country thing. I think there are a lot of very obvious sounds that could go there that would totally fit. A honky-tonk piano, a fiddle, a glockenspiel, a kazoo orchestra, not an orchestra, maybe like three guys doing a kazoo bit or like multi-track it or some shit. Or some whistles, it doesn't need to be so backwater, but, I think there are a lot of things that you could put in that place that are not that very pitchy, thin fucking synthesizer. And look, it's nothing against the track or your aesthetic in general. I can't really think of too many tracks where I'd want to hear that specific synth. I mean, if you're going to throw a synth in there, maybe pick a different patch or something. I think, again, it's a great idea to add something there. I'm just not particularly crazy about that particular synth sound. Maybe grab something else. All right, we have the next track, the final track we're going to do tonight from Mellow City, artist Snake, song North Memphis. It is categorized as a rap track. And we see on SoundCloud over here, #funk. Let's see what this one offers, shall we? Ba-bam. I already see this guy has 10,000. I mean, I think we got the idea there. It's a good beat. That bass is nasty. That bass is super fucking nasty. The sax sample, I thought you treated really well. It's got, kind of you thinned it out so it worked into the beat really well. You chopped it and looped that sax sample nicely. You wanted people to pay attention to the beat, but you wanted to add some extra texture there. So I sort of see and understand, wanting to throw Juicy's vocals in there really quiet in the background just to sort of have something. I think that's a good move. I think that's a really good move because in order to get people rapping on this stuff and pitch it, to rappers and, vocalists and stuff like that. It kind of could illustrate, a bit of a rough idea as to, what it could sound like to rap on it. I thought the, hi-hats and snares sounded really good. The patterns were tight and the way you EQ'd and mixed them sounded really nice as well. It was just all around a really good beat. Just a really good beat. I mean, it's not the most original beat I've heard under the sun, but, fuck, this is like at least at the quality level of the kind of shit Suicide Boys should be rapping over. You know, it sounds better than most of the instrumentals on fucking Bones shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, just had a nice, really heavy, smoky Southern sound. And again, with the sax and the juicy samples, it was a good flip. It was a good flip. Thought it was quite good. A good beat. Oh, I saw a few people pitching this to me on Twitter. I mean, it was probably you and someone else. But yeah, I saw a few people throw this in front of me on Twitter. Well, here we go. Now I have the chance to try it out. So we have Badmonty. That's the username. The artist is SL Badmon. Is it SL or just $L? I'm assuming like SL, you know, either way. Song, a subtle entrance, genre, hip hop, off the project Like the Movies. Let's give it a try and see if it is in fact like the movies. Ba-bam.
Like the movies.
So what I was trying to say is that you just be seeing a lot of unrealistic
Like
shit,
the movies.
and that shit just be fucking
Yeah, I like that.
realize that shit.
Yeah, let's go. There ain't no competition.
Damn.
I like that quite a bit. I thought it was pretty. We had so much talent tonight. Holy shit. Look, as far as like songwriting goes, song structure, cool, good. That beat switch was sick. The beat switch was sick as fuck. The groove switch was great. The flow that you delivered at that point was really good. We on. I thought the vocal line on the hook in the first leg of the track was really good as well. Lyrical content was cool. Look, the basic elements of everything I thought were very good and very well put together. And I like how you're getting a little conceptual with it too. You know, I like kind of the storytelling elements that in the narrative elements that you're getting into here. You know, it's a great track, but it also feels like a really fun intro that, you know, introduces like different voices and ideas and kind of personalities that we're going to probably feel out throughout the rest of the project. You know, I'll say like, look, there's a lot of good ideas here. It just doesn't sound professional grade yet. You know, recommendations, I would maybe invest in a better microphone at some point. You know, at this point, like, look, you're putting together great basic ideas, and you know, you're going into these ambitious concepts that, you know, seem pretty like influenced by other artists, like maybe some Tyler, maybe some J. Cole here and there, that sort of thing. But you know, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at this stage to have influences, especially if they're driving you to be creative. But, you know, I think, look, from here at this point, you know, since you're already at the point where you're rapping effectively, you or whoever you're working with is producing effectively, you got to start playing the long game of like slowly improving this stuff and chiseling it out like a sculpture so that it feels and it sounds unique to you. You know, look for more interesting drum sounds. You know, the drums and the perks for really the first leg of the track sounded a little too faint and plain. You know, the way that you're pitching the vocals on the track, while I think it is cool that you have that voice, sometimes it was a little low, and, you know, the pitch job didn't sound as, you know, as high grade. Maybe invest in a better DAW or VST or something like that, you know, allows you to do that where it doesn't sound, you know, quite so basic. Again, you know, I think a better microphone would probably complement your voice. You don't have a thin sounding voice. You have a good sounding voice, but on this particular track, with whatever mic you were using on top of probably the way you mixed it, it did sound a little thin. I think your voice could probably have a little more low end on it. You know, I think, really at this point, like the game is bringing the sound quality of everything up to the point where it sounds as good as everything else that's out there. You know, the basic ideas and the songwriting that you're delivering here are very good, and the rapping that you're delivering is very good. You know, first track over here, consider me engaged in, you know, the story and concept that you're trying to deliver. again, from here, I think it's really just about improving the sound quality of everything, so it sounds as good as everything else that's out there that you're competing with. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, that's going to be it for Rate Your Music, this episode. Thank you guys very much for watching. We had some incredible talent in this episode. Remember, everything we talked about in this video is linked down below, so you can check it out for yourselves. And shout out to all the artists who came through and submitted. Just love it. And thank you to everybody who subbed and is supporting this series and the channel. We love you. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, TND Streams, reviewing your music forever.